Well, good afternoon, folks. This is Jim Hodson here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas. And we're here today to look at our 1943 Ford Willy's Jeep. We've got Jason with us here, our car model, who's going to go ahead and show us around the Jeep a little bit. So let me give you all a little background on these. This particular Jeep was built in 1943. Actually, its birthday is April 14th, 1943, in Dallas, over near Fair Park. The Ford factory was over there. It had moved from another location in about 1925. But they built 93,000 of these. Now, this was the Army's first 4x4, and it was built by committee, and it still worked out okay. The Ford built 3 different versions. They built a utility version, they built a gun version, and they built a radio Jeep version. This happens to be one of the radio Jeep versions because it's got a static suppressor underneath the dashboard for when the radios were on here. So, Jason, let's show them the engine compartment first. Jason's one of our car guys, and you will recognize him from the Harrier videos. So, what do we got here? As you can, best we can tell, 4.
Very simple little 4-cylinder.
About 60 horsepower, I think they were, and
if that.
You may be able to see on there. It says Jeep, and then further back it says Willys. So this is the engine.
I believe these were flathead 4. So.
Yep. So you can see some of the accessories. I like the accessories. We got a little oil can over here in the corner, and up here on the hood.
Got your air cleaner.
The air cleaner.
And then what I liked is you got your lubrication manual and then a little grease gun.
Yeah. So you got everything you need right under the hood here. Obviously, it's water cooled.
I think it's 6-volt battery, 6-volt system.
So we have just done a lot of work on this to get it to run, and it does do that. So if somebody, the carburetor, that's just a little 2-barrel, isn't it? Or isn't it even a 2-barrel?
Yeah, it's a little bitty one.
Little bitty. They didn't go fast, but they could pull a trailer. They could pull a howitzer.
Yep.
And do those kinds of things. Or put in the back, they could put a lot of radios in these things. So you will notice that this says VMSB 151 and U.S. Marine Corps. We don't actually know whether this was ever in the Marine Corps or not. It was painted up that way when it was donated to the museum, but we can tell you a little bit about VMSB 151. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the V stands for fixed wing and the M stands for Marines, and then the SB stands for Scout Bomber. So this was a Scout Bomber Squadron in the Second World War. It began life as VMO-1, Marine Fixed Wing Observation Squadron 1 in Quantico, in about 1941, but they changed names over a period of time, became VMSB 151. It was deactivated after the war and was brought back later on as VMO-1 again, but they were called the Alibabas. And if somebody has any idea why, please let me know. But the only thing we can find is Alibaba and the 40 Thieves and Open Sesame, and that's about all I can find on it. So. We can find very little other history about it. So, here inside, if I can get the camera to pay attention, we've got a seat in the back that you can put 2 people in. And the radios would go on either side of the compartment back here. You'll see little doors. Those are little storage compartments. This one has got the roof on it. So Jason is going to start it up and he's going to drive it around. But let's talk a little bit about what we've got here in terms of instrumentation and how this is going to start.
So it's a standard 3-speed. So you have to turn the fuel pump on, and then you come over. If it's cold, you put the choke on, but it's not cold. You turn it to the ignition on, and then the start button's down here.
Way up there.
And then it just kicks over, and then reverses over and up, and then 3-speed, and then you got
yeah, what are those two handles for?
So this is for your 4x4 system. So you got high and low, and then you got your 4-wheel and 2-wheel drive.
Okay. And this configuration, the top could go down, the window could go down. It's a little tight in there though, isn't it? That steering wheel is right there.
Yeah, it was made for skinny 18-year-olds.
Okay.
And I'm not that anymore.
So Jason is gonna drive it around the ramp here a little bit, and we'll watch that. We were real glad to have this here as part of the collection. The plans are to outfit it as a radio Jeep, and since we've got it operating now, we will plan to use it for hops and props, and maybe give rides in it a little bit. There you go. There's a Jeep, a 1943 Ford. It's a 1943 Ford GPW. I can't see the screen very well, so I can't. I'm not going to be able to see what your questions are. But if anybody knows what the GPW stands for, please let me know. I can tell you. I'll give you a hint. The G stands for government, and that's where the G stands for, is government. Now the P. Let's see. I need some shade here. Very neat. Yes, thank you, Calvin. Appreciate that. The P stood for 80 inches. This was an 80-inch wheelbase, and I don't know where the codes came up on that, but P was for an 80-inch wheelbase. And then the W was Willys. So there were a variety of these. Ford built them, Bantam built them, Willys built them, and then they were all referred to as Jeeps. So tell me, how did it drive?
It drives good. No power steering, and it's a little tight on the steering wheel.
Yeah, a little tight on the steering wheel. But these things were all over the place. Everybody used them. And we looked at the data plate on this one earlier, and so we know that it came out of the factory on April 14th, 1943. And we said we were really glad to have it. We had problems with this for a while. We could get it to run, but it wouldn't stay running. So we ended up having to go through the whole thing. And we found that it had been sitting for a while with gas in it, and the gas had turned to varnish. So we had to clean up the engine and the carburetor and the fuel system, and we replaced the whole fuel tank. So now it runs. We'll do a little walk around so you can see all the sides of it. We've got one fuel can here on the back, as you can see, and the spare tire. And I don't know where the tools are, but I know we've probably got tools here to be able to take care of a flat tire. We've got a water container here, a collapsible one, and the tools are probably behind the tire. I'm not sure. We also have other tools here, so that if we get it stuck, we can cut down trees or dig it out of whatever mess it might get into. The camera's not cooperating with me too much here. So we can see that we have no idea about whether those are original or not, but the shovel and the axe. So you had everything you needed to be able to take one of these into the field, and they were delivered in crates. So the whole thing came in a crate, and you took it apart and you built it. So did you ever drive anything in the Marine Corps, any of the Jeeps in the Marine Corps?
I got to drive Humvees and 5 tons.
A little bit different than this?
A lot different. Starting was pretty similar, but those were a little more modern and rode a little bit better.
Yeah. So I'm going to walk around and let you look at the instrument panel again. We can get a close-up without Jason in there, so you can really see the detail in there. But this is a really nice piece for us to have here in the collection. We're really glad to have it. So there you can see, that's a big wheel. I was in here a little bit earlier and drove it around. It is really a big wheel, but that helps because there's no power steering. If somebody can tell us what BO drive stands for, that would be nice. We don't know what that is, but it's got the fuel switch and then the lights, a choke and the ignition switch, and then the basic instrumentation. We've got fuel and oil and the temperature of the heads, and an ammeter, and then we've got, of course, the odometer and the speed indicator. The handle on the other side is the emergency brakes. And as Jason mentioned on the floor, we've got high and low and 4-wheel and 2-wheel. And let's see, hi from Taiwan. Okay, we got Devin again, thank you. And you can see the little tiny button over there on the top. Many of you may remember a button like that from high and low headlights, but not on this one. That's our starter button. That big button next to the, if you can see it, there's a big button next to the, yeah, right there, next to the gas pedal, and that used to be the starter, but not on this one. Otherwise, we've got the clutch and the brakes. And you can see down here in the corner, we've got a fire extinguisher. And a glove compartment over on the other side. And that's where the data plate is, and that's where we found the information about when this was made and its serial number, and a lot of other things. It's got stuff on there about information about what the tire pressures are supposed to be and those types of things. So if you've got some questions, ask them. This is a short one here today. Hi, Lance, good to see you. Melissa, nice to have you with us. Oh, yeah, I love the, yeah. Let me get the camera for this. And there's our windshield wipers. So it's either a two-person, so you need a co-pilot for this, or you could drive and do it yourself if you had to. So obviously the top is not new, original. That's new. But all in all, this is a real nice piece, and we're glad to have it here. While I'm in the shade, I can read I'm not seeing any questions. That's okay. So I'm going to back up here a little bit so you can get an overall view again. And remind you that next month in August, we've got National Aviation Day coming in on August 21st. We're going to have some open cockpits and some flight simulators and some extra games and things for the kids. National Aviation Day is a celebration of Orville Wright's birthday, and it's normally August 19th, but that's a Thursday, so we're going to do it on August 21st. All the information will be in our newsletter, which will be coming out later this week. And then Hops and Props on October 2nd. We're up to, I think it's 13 or 14 brewers right now, so we've got almost all the brewers we want. And then one quick scan over here of the Mohawk. You'll notice the Mohawk has its wings on it. So we got the Mohawk was winged last week, and they got the flap on it today, and now they're working on the engine housings and how we're going to mount the props on the airplane. So, from Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas, we'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week. See ya. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.